Apple announced a small update to its already great iPad Air. I've got my hands on one and I've been taking it through its paces. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and if you just bought a brand new iPad Air last year, I'm sorry. This is the shortest stretch of time I can remember between Apple products. It was only May of last year, 10 months ago, when the iPad Air that had an M2 processor came out. The good news is that M2 powered Air from last year is still crazy good. So don't feel bad about getting that. That is going to last you a long time. And this iPad is not that different. And if you've had your eye on an M2 Air, you might be able to find that for like $100 less than it used to be. So I'll link that down below for you. This is the iPad that I think fits most artists and illustrators. On my website, I rank all the tech that I review, and the iPad Air has been the #1 product in the tablet category, not just iPads, but Android as well, for the last several years. And it's not because it's the best iPad out there. It's not. The iPad Pro is better, but are you going to notice that M4 processor once you've played with it for a little while? Probably not. Are you going to really need that dual OLED screen? It's beautiful, but I don't know. Is it worth $400 more to you? Maybe for some it is. I don't know. I think this iPad Air kind of fills that middle ground for most people where it's good enough and it's a really high quality product. Then there's that less expensive entry level iPad. They just updated that a little bit too. It's fine, but if you're looking to make some sacrifices there, that is a big drop in quality in terms of the screen, how the Apple Pencil charges, that sort of thing. And that's why this iPad Air is really in that Goldilocks zone where you're getting great performance at a really good price. And since the only real upgrade here this time around is going from an M2 processor to an M3 processor with that price staying the same, it only makes this a better value. In fact, the M3 processor is crazy powerful for an iPad. It could just rip through anything that you throw at it from an illustration perspective. I draw on iPads all the time. It's what I do. And even if I went back to the pre-M1 iPad, drawing on that is still really good. In Procreate, in Clip Studio, and all of these drawing apps, it's great. And so what you're really doing when you get an M3 processor is you're kind of future-proofing it. You're saying, hey, 5 years from now, this is still going to run everything I need it to run. I do most of my drawing in an app called Procreate, and Procreate constricts how many layers you have available to you based on how large your canvas is and how powerful your iPad is, basically, how much memory your iPad has. And even with large canvases like full-size, printable, comic book pages, I'm still getting dozens and dozens of layers. It's fine for that sort of thing. Or if I'm working on animations for videos that I am working at, I get tons of layers that translate into frames of animation. On the last iPad Air, I was testing out ZBrush, which is a new 3D app. It's been on the desktop for years. New to the iPad 3D app, and it runs great on that iPad, so it's only going to run better here. So really, this is just a spec bump. I wouldn't worry too much about it if you have the M2 iPad, or heck, even the M1 iPad Air. You're still going to be fine for years to come. There is no need to upgrade yet. The spec bump is really for people coming from like older iPads or that entry-level iPad who are ready to upgrade. Now, on the outside, this comes in 4 colors. You have space gray, you have blue, purple, starlight, which is a faint touch of gold finish. These colors are all pretty subtle, honestly, and you can now get the Air in 2 sizes, 11 inch and 13. That was an update they made last summer, but you could still get those sizes today. The display is the one area of this iPad that you might look at and say, I might want to go iPad Pro. This is an LCD panel. The Pro is a dual OLED display, and the Air only has a 60 Hertz refresh rate compared to the iPad Pro's 120 Hertz. So confession time, I have turned into a bit of a screen snob over the years. It is not my fault. I review a lot of things, and I've hit a point where LCD panels are usually just fine, but I've seen so many OLED panels that it's like, man, those are just nice. But here's the thing. It doesn't mean that all LCDs are bad. For example, there's some really high-end LCD displays out there. The PlayStation Portal has a really great LCD display. I just finished reviewing a Xiaomi tablet a few weeks ago. That thing has a really, really nice LCD display. In fact, if you look at that tablet and you tell someone, this is an OLED display, most people would have no idea that it's not. And here's the thing with the iPad Air, even though this is not an OLED, it's really on the higher end of these LCD displays. It looks really, really good. And yes, if I sit it next to the iPad Pro, I can totally tell the difference. It's one of those differences that really fades away when you actually start using the product on a day-to-day basis. This iPad does support the same Apple Pencil Pro that they rolled out last year. This is fantastic. It charges along the side of the iPad, stores there as well. It has features like squeeze the barrel to bring up some of the extra tools in some apps. Most of these apps are like Apple's Notes apps. Some apps like Procreate has taken advantage of some of these new features. For example, there's like a barrel roll feature. It's kind of like spinning a real life paintbrush where like if you spin it one way, you might get a really thin line. Spin it another way, you might get a thicker line, kind of like a calligraphy brush. I guess what I'm saying here is if you're looking to brush up on your art skills or learn a new hobby, you could do a lot worse than the Apple Pencil. And I would also recommend my Learn to Draw in 60 Days course over on my website. Also, if you already own the course, there's some new content coming in April. Keep your eyes on your email inbox. I'm going to be announcing it there. And of course, I'll be talking about it in future videos too. The course is really designed for noobs and hobbyists who want to use their new tech toys. So other than that, this is the same great Apple Pencil experience we've all grown accustomed to. When the Pencil is charging, its center aligns along the iPad, which we are all used to. Apple moved the camera from the top orientation to the side orientation, depending on which way you turn it. Anyway, the long side of the iPad. And other tablets have been doing that too, but one thing I've noticed with most of the Android tablets that have charging pens is the pen is off center. So connecting the pen to the top of the tablet, it's always kind of a guess to figure out where are those magnets, how's that going to line up. Apple figured out how to get the charging mechanism in there while also keeping the pen centered. It's a little thing, but it's a nice detail. And I appreciate those details of an iPad. There's other things too that Apple does. For example, the volume buttons. If you change the orientation of the iPad, like it knows to change the orientation of the volume buttons. So up means up, down means volume down, no matter what the orientation is. Not every tablet does that, and it really confuses you when you start changing the volume. The fingerprint scanner on the power button returns here. This is my favorite way to turn on an iPad. I would love to see this feature come over to the Pro. There's also a new Magic Keyboard cover that doesn't feel that different from the last year's version. They did add a function row of keys along the top. That's a big addition. Also, the trackpad is a little bit bigger. So this is more in line with the iPad Pro keyboard that they rolled out last year. Apple's also really heralding this as an Apple intelligence device, but I'll spare you from all the AI gobbledygook. So don't yell at me in the comments. But yeah, I really don't have much more to say about the iPad Air other than that. I've said it all before. This is a really good device at a really good price. That M3 processor is gonna last you a long time. So this still sits at the top of my value list. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.